Welcome, everybody. It's the Thursday edition of Talkback, brought to you this morning by Western States Cat, located on Reserve, with things you'll need all winter, like great deals on batteries and antifreeze. Dig It Excavating, bringing 30 years of excellence to every job for all your excavation needs. Call 214-4292. Selway Armory on Stockyard Road, with more guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula, Montana's premier firearms dealer. And Ponderosa Dental, just off Reserve on 3rd. When you think of a great smile, think of Ponderosa Dental, proud corporate partners of Grizzly Athletics. And finally, Big Sky Breakout, Missoula's premier escape room, located on the north side of the Big Yellow House, close to downtown and the interstate. All right, I feel like saying Kevin Bacon in the movie, you know, where he said, "Let's dance!" Oh, probably shouldn't do that, though.
Well, you should.
Because after all, it's radio, and that's what we do here. We don't dance, but you just can't see us doing it.
We do regularly dance, actually.
It's hard to dance to a news story, though. So, and this is a
but it's embarrassing if anybody could actually see you dancing.
Unless it's a political story. Those are usually dances. They write themselves.
Yeah. Anyway, dancing from foot to foot for going to the bathroom as well. So, but anyway, we have special guests in the studio today. First, Didi Hoffman is with us. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right, and we have two other individuals with us whose names I don't have in front of me.
He's coming on later.
Oh,
Carlton Wilborn will be coming on in a little bit.
Okay.
But we also have Charlene Campbell here.
Yes.
And I would like to take a minute first. For our guests that are here, it's always a little surprising when somebody hears the radio lead-in and they hear firearms dealer, and it's like a reminder that you're in Montana.
Welcome to Montana.
Welcome to Montana.
That is correct. Yes.
But I want to bring Charlene in here for a minute because there's a couple of things I'd like to say to her on a personal basis, as well as this is Vibe Week, which is a very important week in terms of culture.
She's shy. She's shy.
She is not shy. No, she is
I'm
not
not
shy.
that shy.
You know, as I think about this entire week and the lead up to it, whether it's Dr. Abraham, Kim, or Charlene, the amount of work that goes into bringing people from all over the world here to Missoula, and then the response that Missoula gives back to these people is nothing short of amazing. But I want to say thank you to you for all your work and what you mean to this community, what you give to us. It is truly something that I just want to give you a big hug.
Oh my God, he's going to hug.
Yes, I'm going to give you a hug.
Wow.
And
It's not even a radio hug. It's a real hug.
It's a real hug,
Charlene,
not a side hug.
It's not a side hug.
Well, you need to replace that word "work" with challenge.
Challenge.
It's a really big challenge.
It is a
but
challenge.
I wouldn't say it's, it's the kind of work I came to Montana to do. So I love it.
But it makes this place very special. So tell us about Vibe this week and what's going on.
Well, this is the encore.
Okay.
Right? We met here a year ago for the premiere.
Yes.
The USA
yes.
premiere.
Yeah.
So now it's the encore, which, that has kind of a sexy ring to it, I think. But this year, I think we've got, 250 dancers, maybe more. It's hard to even keep track. And probably 6,000 people rotating around the different venues for the full week. Easily 20, 30, 40 countries. That keeps changing every day, too, because I don't even know who some of the people who are here yet.
I assume the encore is even better.
The encore is incredible.
Yeah.
And the level of the talent here is outrageous.
It's world class.
But
world-class
we
people
like
doing
to
it.
say that. But, I was been sitting in the theater. Carlton was there yesterday. The girl doing Fado from Portugal is, like, outrageous.
Yeah.
And, Jorge Barani, who was in your studio last year, is getting off a plane at 2. He'll be performing in the gala. Venus Villa is coming from
Cuba.
Cuba.
Through January of last year, he still came back again this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, he was one of the winners last year, so now he's coming back. And Andile from South Africa is here as a judge this year and performing in the gala. But in Missoula, Montana, South Africa will be dancing with Cuba on stage at the Wilma.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So I have to ask you, what is the feedback you're getting from the dancers? We spoke with some folks from Romania yesterday. And
they're ringers.
They were. It was a different setting for them. They're usually trucking in out of giant cities, big airports, big venues. They're used to doing giant stadiums in China, and they're in this small town. Are you hearing any feedback about the setting?
Well, this is their first time to the USA. And if you've traveled through Eastern Europe, it's a very, very different culture than ours. And I met them in Vienna last year at the grand finale of this event, Vibe, in Vienna. And they had come in to compete from Romania, and I gave them a scholarship to come here. to me, they're sort of unhinged. I've never seen choreography. No, seriously. I mean, because they're not circus artists, but the acrobatic element is crazy.
Ballet and breakdance.
They're doing Lacrimosa from Mozart, but it's about a woman dying, and the beep 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 is going off like in the intensive care. I mean, it's very creative, and it makes you tingle, and the intensity of I think their culture is coming through in their dance. They're just wild, woolly, and wonderful.
One of the things they talked about at the beginning when we first asked them to introduce themselves, the young lady says she grew up in the communist culture and everything was so repressed and so and as soon as freedom spread its wings, all of a sudden she felt her creative juices beginning to flow, and the other gentleman as well, that they finally had the opportunity to stretch out and really express themselves. And she said they dove in head first and never came out.
Yes, that's why I encourage everybody. They'll be dancing in the finals tomorrow in the Denison, which is for free. Can't tell you what time they're going to dance. I mean, if you're within 100 miles, I'd say.
When is the event all told tomorrow?
Well, it's all week long, all day long, from 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
It's pretty much all in the Denison Theater?
Well, the competition portion is. We've got other events like Didi Hoffman's diplomacy events and Dr. Kim's. I mean, there are things all over town. But the actual competition is during the day at the Denison Theater on campus all day long. And I encourage people to drop in.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So I've got a 9-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
She would love to get in on some of this. Daddy works most of the day.
Yeah.
She goes to school. So it's not, during the day, it's kind of out for us until after Friday. What would be the best thing that I could take my daughter or my 5-year-old son to go check out and see, just get a glimpse, a taste of dance?
You mean this week?
Yeah, this week.
Well,
what's a good time to show up?
Saturday, but that's a ticketed event. That's the only event that's actually ticketed. Can't you get out of work early?
Hey, boss!
John,
that would be a no.
John, we'll let you out if you're going to go.
They're streaming it at the press box, I heard.
Seriously?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Wow. Well, now, if they're streaming it, is it possible for other people to pick it up?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. The Chinese are going to be televising it back into mainland China, too.
Wow.
So you can catch it on the back end, I guess is what I'm saying. But, the 9-year-old daughter, she's welcome. If, let's get somebody else to take her over there. We'll put her in the third row or something.
Right. Well, I got to get her out of school, too. I'm sure they're not learning anything there.
All the kids are out of school this week. They're all over there. Which school is she at? I'm not kidding.
She's at Cold Springs.
Cold Springs. We'll check in on that one.
Okay,
we had most of them there.
We're up against a break. 721-1290 is our number. We're going to come right back. We have more. It's a delightful conversation. We're talking about Vibe Week, and we're going to get Didi on to talk about the whole idea of diplomacy in the arts coming up here in just a moment. So, and by the way, all of our lines are open at 721-1290. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
You're there.
And we're back on Talkback. It is Vibe Week. Bob Seidenschwartz joining us, and the Montana World Affairs Council. Didi Hoffman is joining us here in studio. And I understand, in addition to dance, we're talking about diplomacy through the arts. And what a wonderful opportunity to blend those two worlds together, right?
It's it actually, in my research and what I'm going to be speaking about, it's thrilling to see how art and dance actually can influence what's happening in the world, and there's an artist named Malvina Hoffman who was a sculptor in the early 20th century who most people have never heard of in our generation, but when she died in 1966, she was actually a household name and called America's Rodin. Everybody knew who she was. She lived this life that was like Amelia Earhart's life. I mean, she won every award. She studied with Rodin, but she had a friendship with the ballerina Anna Pavlova, who was a Russian woman, and they met in Paris, and they developed this friendship. And so the story of these two women is compelling because both of them were born in the Victorian times when women had no authority, no power. Most of them weren't allowed to own possessions. And generally women were born to marry well, and that was their sole purpose, and to raise children. And so these two women were artists, and they both were prodigies. And when they finally met, Anna Pavlova was 4 years older than Malvina Hoffman. And Malvina saw her for the first time in 1910 when she was a student of Rodin in Paris. And she had gone to London, saw Anna Pavlova dance. And at this time, Anna Pavlova was a great star. She was the principal dancer at the Imperial Ballet in Russia and also a member of Diaghilev's Ballet Russe, which was a very avant-garde group of Russian dancers in Paris at the turn of the century. And Ballet Russe included Balanchine and Nijinsky and Claude Debussy, and the sets were created by Picasso and Matisse.
Wow.
And it was a crazy time when all of the arts intertwined.
Arts was king.
Arts was king, and not only that, but the visual arts and the performing arts really came together in Paris. And what we see today on stage, as far as dance and music, happened because of what was happening in Paris. That's the line in the sand between classic and modern. And so Anna Pavlova, when Malvina Hoffman saw her, exploded with creativity, and Anna Pavlova became her muse. So she started working with creating dance, but she hadn't met the ballerina. And over time, some of her patrons in New York introduced them. So they began a friendship. And Anna Pavlova was dancing with the Ballet Russe in 1909 and 1910, and she didn't really like the way Diaghilev was telling her what to do. And she wanted to dance her Dying Swan, and he thought it was old-fashioned. He wanted new, but that was her signature piece. And for her in 1910 to imagine that she could actually do something else.
She broke free.
She broke free. And one of the reasons why she had the audacity to believe she could was because she knew Isadora Duncan, who was from America and had her own company in Paris. And her company stayed at Rodin's studio. That's where she rented space.
So Didi, as you're talking about these people like Isadora Duncan and Rodin, for the culturally challenged, such as myself, give us a little background on the significance of who these people were and what they meant to the arts, because we're getting a story that talks about people breaking out and support and things. So help us understand a little bit about the significance of these people.
First, to begin with Rodin, he was important in this story because when he was a sculptor, he was poor and he wasn't classically trained in sculpture, and so he kind of just did what he felt inside his person, and he never won any awards, and he wasn't respected. Nobody liked him. And finally, about when he was 50 years old, so he was dirt poor, his friends were Matisse and all the new Impressionists, and they were getting some ground, but in sculpture he was getting nowhere, and people were mocking him, actually. They didn't like his work. But all of a sudden, around the turn of the century, he became famous, and he became the father of modern sculpture. So that he was the break to change.
So when you say he was being mocked too, we're not talking about being mocked by the common man. Are we talking about being mocked by the intellectual or art class?
Exactly.
Who are the kind of like, we either anoint you or we don't?
Exactly.
Well, the people he wanted to impress, obviously, right?
Yeah, the people who he really wanted to respect his work didn't respect it at all.
Right, okay.
So, and then when Anna Pavlova was this prima ballerina in Russia, when she came to Paris and got involved with this avant-garde group and saw Isadora Duncan breaking new ground and fully Loie Fuller with modern dance, and she was now creating. Balanchine was, there, and there was so much creativity that she started to believe she could break free, and she did. She broke free and started her own company, which was the most amazing thing for a woman to do.
Unprecedented at that time. Right.
And she was responsible not only for the dance, but she was responsible for receipts, marketing, keeping her company working.
Wow.
She, at every moment in her life, she worried about the dancers that worked for her because she had to keep them dancing or else they would leave to go to another company.
She was a CEO, and we have to go to a break.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I was just wondering where she got the startup cash. It's not like, oh, I'm going to start my company in France tomorrow.
I wish I knew that, and I don't know.
All right,
She had her backers.
We're going to come right back, and we have Mark and Larry both on the phone who want to visit with you, Didi. So we're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. This is, hey, we hope you'll come. You'll join us all until 10 o'clock this morning. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number, 1-800-568-5309. Didi Hoffman joining us here in studio. We're talking about Vibe Week and getting into the whole diplomacy angle, and there's going to be a big seminar coming up at the University of Montana. But we have calls people that want to visit with you. So, Mark, you're up first. You're on with Didi Hoffman. Hi.
Hi. Hi, guys. Hi, Didi.
Hi.
The only thing I really know about dance is from movies, American movies. So I like to hear a little bit more about the history, or if they're interconnected. The Roaring Twenties, the French Follies, and the German. I forget what it is, but Lisa Minnelli was in the movie about the German dance and like acts.
Cabaret?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay, well, thanks for the call, Mark. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm not an expert in dance, unfortunately, but I can tell you what was happening at that time was the classic, before the Ballet Russe, ballet was really codified. So all of the dancers the women would be wearing tutus, and they would be dancing all the same. Like if you see them in Swan Lake, for example, everybody's dancing in the same way. The Corps de Ballet is all doing the same thing. And the men were kind of in the background. And what happened at the turn of the century, and this was all leading up to World War I, so there were also things happening to cause these people to want to be a little bit more creative and break away from the original. But the men started coming to the forefront in dance and having their own ability to show off their skills. And they started to create costumes that, rather than being tutus, felt more like what the character of the dancer would be. So classical ballet was moving more into the modern. And Loie Fuller really started a little bit of the modern at the end of the 1800s when she was dancing with the Folies Bergère. I can never say that. And she was on stage, and she had these huge scarves, and she would twirl around in these scarves, and she had gel lighting, which was new, and all these lights would be changing. So it was all very exciting and very free.
So, Didi, I'm listening to Mark's question. I'm thinking about this historically. This was also a time when society was breaking out.
Correct.
Joel Grey and Liza Minnelli in that movie he's describing, this was risque. This was off the charts, kind of like, ooh, you don't act like this. So this dance.
Yeah, let's try to get one more call on.
I'm sorry about that, Peter.
About a minute and a half before we have to take our hard break. So,
Thank you.
Larry, you are on with Didi Hoffman. Hi.
Yes, I had a question. My wife and a friend were going out tomorrow to watch the performances, and they were having a difficult time trying to find out either on the website or in other media sources the times of the different groups that were performing during the day. Because there's so many groups, do you have that level of detail on your website as to when different groups are performing? And where could we find that information?
The information for Vibe is on the website as far as the level of detail, and I do apologize, I don't have that information. It's rmbt.org. And go to the Vibe tab, VIBE, and that should give you a detail of the breakdown of all of the different events.
Okay.
And I hope you make it.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for the call, Larry.
For everyone else, RMBT stands for the Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater.
Right.
Might help you remember it when you get out of your car.
So
rmbt.org.
There you go. So, yes, so go ahead. Let's talk about we have a minute, so quickly.
Oh, I'm going to be speaking today at 11 o'clock, and I can't remember the name of the
Masker Theater.
The Masker Theater, yeah.
The Masker
Theater, and we'll be there from about 11 to 1.
11 to 1, and I'm going to be talking about these two women because truly their experiences changed everything for art and dance. They broke every glass ceiling. They changed dance and art forever, and it's a compelling story. And it also gets together with Radio City Music Hall and Dance International, and it's a great story.
Thank you so much. We have a hard break to hit here, and then we have a whole other hour to talk. So we'll be right back with more of Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hello there, John. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian. Bob Seidenschwartz joining us here in studio. The Montana World Affairs Council on the radio continues.
Just a quick addendum to the last session we had. You can check out the speech at 11, but also actual sculptures from Malvina Hoffman will be in Missoula today at the Masker Theater. So if you want to check out some of these artwork, these pieces that she was discussing and the connection to dance, you can do so very easily with a little trip across town today.
Fantastic. And we have another special guest in the studio. Carlton Wilborn is with us. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm great. How are you?
All right. So tell us a little bit about Carlton Wilborn.
Oh, my goodness. That's a whole world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. My mom said she wanted a black child. No. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I currently live in Los Angeles. I'm, one of 5. And, my world at this point is quite large. I started out as a dancer with the premier company that is still so in Chicago called Hubbard Street Dance, Chicago. Started there. But actually, I started before then in a magnet high school with our current First Lady, Michelle Obama, and I started in school together. She was a dancer. We were taking dance classes together. Whitney Young Magnet High School. That's where I started. And just by a fluke of circumstances, I started dancing. So my world is really interesting because I have a full platform as a dancer. But I was never that person, that guy that was like, Mom and Dad, I want to take a class. Really, dance became a fix-it for a part of my world that wasn't right. I thought I was going to go to high school in Florida, which is where my dad's family was from. Started my first year. It didn't work. They pulled me out, middle of the school year. Scramble. What should we do? And my mom ran into my 8th grade teacher who knew this woman at Whitney Young, happened to be part of the dance department. Let's see if we can get him in through the arts world. That's literally how my dance thing came. And poof, the magic dragon, it worked, and here I am.
Well, I'm curious a little bit. This Magnet High School, we don't have whatever that is here.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about what the access to the arts is like for people that may not have expectations in the arts but have natural talent. It's not so easy always to find these people.
Well, that's a perfect blend because, a magnet school, for instance, basically is where there's almost like a lottery system, chosen people that can go from different communities in a city to a high-powered school.
So it's a lucky draw.
It's a lucky draw, so to speak. And you have to go through high-level testings, academia-wise, through the arts area, same kind of thing. But that being said, it brings in a mass cross-section of people from all over the world and different economic backgrounds and cultures. And so I was so grateful. I realize now the gift of it was that it really set me up for the platform that I would have now, getting to travel the world, getting to go to China, getting to go to Australia, getting to go to South Africa, and blend in with artists from different worlds. And so here I am today, and that's where the grooming started.
So with the magnet school, is that something who helps get you in? I would imagine tuition's quite expensive. Is it based on kind of a sliding scale? Or does somebody say, this is a very talented young man, and, pay attention?
Most of it is really just through testing. So if you can go through high-level qualification testing, you can get accepted.
Right.
And they only choose a certain amount per year.
Okay.
For my deal, literally, it was just God, divine thing. This woman, Diane Brooks, said that she was going to work with me. I didn't know her from anywhere. She said she'd work with me over the summer to teach me the audition piece that I would have to do in the fall. When I showed up, and it's great for me because I also have a full career as an actor, but both my dancing and my acting chops had to get proven at the same time. I had to show up at the audition, pretend like I didn't know her, pretend like I was learning the audition for like the piece for the first time, and then pull it off, and I got in.
Well, now you had to have some dancing chops before you even got to the high school.
Me and my brother pretending we were Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 in my living room. That's all I did. Literally, that's all I had.
That's all you got. All right.
It's got to start someplace, right?
The secret is out. No.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, who was Michael? Carlton.
Right,
You know?
right. And I just have to share this. We were talking before we went on air, and Carlton had been in Missoula quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he said when he came back here, he gets off the plane, and you describe how you felt, Carlton.
No, listen, I mean, so yeah, I realized it was about 20 years ago. Charlene Campbell, dear friend of mine, we go back almost beyond 30 years now. When she first came out here with the Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater, she brought me out to do some master dance classes.
Okay.
And it was the summertime, and it was great. Oh, my God. I remember I got to stay, a mutual friend of ours, tango instructor, had this beautiful house, and I got to stay in this in the actual barn where the horses were.
Yeah.
Right? So going
This
from
was
like
not a
Chicago.
punishment.
No, no, no,
You
right.
didn't say something wrong at dinner.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was really fantastic in and of itself. Cut to, I come back here. I knew, I had to dress warm. It's going to be cold. But I didn't put into my brain the snow factor that would be here. And more than that, what it would feel like. So I got off the plane, and I was just 10 years old, giddy kid.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, this snow's amazing. Look at how gorgeous it is.
Have you
Bro.
gotten in a snowball fight yet?
Is that a challenge?
Yeah.
Really?
I will
you wanna
throw
do that
snowballs
now
at you
on
if you
air?
want to. I'm happy to.
Not yet.
I think he's got you.
I can't walk away from this.
Hey, John, I'm siding with him, and I'm a ball player, so you're in trouble. All
right.
I will nail you in your head.
We used to house people that came over from Ukraine. So I've been in fights with Siberians before. Okay? I'm ready for you guys.
All right.
We're going to take a break. Come right back. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. We'd love to hear from you because we have all four of our phone lines open. Carlton Wilborn is here. We haven't even gotten to the reason why he's here today. We've got a little bit of a history going on. Now we have a little bit of basis to work on. We'll be right back with more of Talk Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. This is Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. We're celebrating Vibe Week, and Carlton Wilborn joining us here in studio this morning. And we had a little bit of background now, but so the reason you're here in Missoula is obviously to be here with Vibe. And what are you doing to earn your keep, if you will, while you're here?
I'm wearing several hats while I'm here. So part of my time here is working as a judge, which I will be doing tomorrow for the contemporary dance category. And then today, this evening, is a screening for a feature documentary film that I am one of the main subjects in called Strike a Pose. Mm-hmm. And, Charlene had tried to get me here last year. We couldn't work out the scheduling. It worked out. And when she got wind of Strike a Pose, it's been touring around all of 2016 and now about to hit theaters. She was like, oh, my God, I think for a lot of the themes that we have going on in Vibe, it would be awesome.
Is it a documentary, I assume, about dance?
So Strike a Pose is basically following myself and 6 other artists, men, that were on a really high-profile job a bunch of years ago. We did the Blonde Ambition tour with Madonna back in 1990, and that turned into Truth or Dare, the documentary. And so this new film is about us, the guys, and really what our process was working with her and what our impact in the world has been as a result of it.
So, Carl, let's go back to your youth.
Sure.
Story of.
Go ahead.
Tell us about. You grew up Southside Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You are a gay black man, correct?
Yeah.
So
sure.
tell us about.
Now I can say that.
Now you can say that, but that's why I want to go back to when you were a young boy.
Yeah.
When did you first say, "Hey," or did somebody go, "Hey, this kid, tough neighborhood"? Where did this process start for you, where you came to this realization?
It's been an onion peeling process,
Okay.
will be told. I mean, I grew up, I was, if we're having real talk.
We are having a real talk.
So-
just put it out.
Yeah, totally. So I started out having sex with men and women, or boys and girls, both, when I was very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
And so
How young?
I was 8 years old.
Okay.
I was 8 years old, yeah. Having sex with the girls in my neighborhood, and then having sex with the boys, and then I was sexually molested. And that's what really started to skew my focus in regards to what my real interest was from 8 to 13, right? That was going down. But in regards to my own sexuality, I wasn't a gay child that was out in the community as a gay dude. Most of them knew me with girlfriends, and I was doing my thing with guys on the DL, on the down low, in secret.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, just me dealing with myself, dealing with my things, I would let a little bit more out. I didn't really even come out to my family about my sexuality until many, many years later. And really what triggered that was the fact that by the time I was 26 in 1985, I was diagnosed HIV positive.
Right.
And that really put a grip on me and my soul in regards to being in my truth. So through a lot of just divine God work and a lot of prayer and a lot of crying and trying to figure it out, I started and incrementally have been able to get into my own skin and celebrate who I am. So what's amazing about my time here and being here with Vibe right now, being here to celebrate Vibe, being here to, speak on Strike a Pose and all the things is it's the first time in my career that I've had these high opportunities where I get to be authentically present to all of it with no shame, with no hiding, with no dodging of my truths at all. And it's a new world that I'm in. So it's super exciting and really just great to be in Montana with that freedom.
Do you feel like, through all you've been through, that you've earned basically the right to be who you are, where you are at this time?
Dude, you could not have said it better. 1,000%. And it's powerful that you asked that question because, over the years we watch interviews and you hear somebody say, I worked really, really hard to get here. And I always literally was like, God, I couldn't quite get with how they could be so full of themselves to say that. But when I look at my track now and what I get to feel and see, I get to make that statement.
Well, you said
1,000%.
You said it was the understanding that you had AIDS that kind of triggered this change in you.
HIV.
I'm sorry, HIV.
Very different thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry. But was it the striking nature of your mortality that did that, or just the realization that you had something to deal with that other people were publicly dealing with at the time? Or
put me in the shame and the hiding?
No, that gave you the freedom to, you said it was kind of like a pivot point for you, where you were able to come forward and be the truth that you were.
Again, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It hasn't been an overnight thing. I mean, to be really honest, so it's been processes. The first start of it, me getting free and accepting myself, I've got things going on and I've been doing lots of things aside from dancing. I'm a published author. My first book came out in 2007. Got Best Autobiography through USA Book News, which was a huge accomplishment.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Front and Center, How I Learned to Live There, right? So because of that, there's a magazine, HIV positive magazine called Pause, that wanted to do an article on me. I said yes. This was back in 2014. 3 weeks after I said yes, they came back and said, oh, if you can be patient, we can actually get you on the cover. And now listen, it was amazing because I was literally double-headed. My ego was like, oh, I get to be on the cover of a magazine. Of course I'll say yes. But then I thought, oh, but I don't want to be the face talking about, like, here's my face zoom lens for HIV and, like, put my status out there. And I thought, dude, either you want to be free or you don't want to be free. And I said yes. So I had about 5 months before the magazine was going to drop, which was perfect because it gave me enough time to gear up with myself for how I would feel once I saw it. And I got to say, it was just a miracle. The day that the magazine came out, a friend of mine hit me up. I went to a space where I saw the magazine, and the fact that I was nothing but excited when I saw it. No part of me like grabbed him, but sort of kept him quiet and went out. No, I mean, I was like really enthralled, and I was like, oh my God, something's happening. Something's happening. And then the crescendo of all of it really has kicked off over the last year. 2016 was the year that I literally get to say that my soul was cleansed. Strike a Pose has done so much of it. I don't want to give a lot of it away. The screening is tonight at the Roxy, 8 o'clock. I invite everybody that's hearing this and might hear about it to come on out. There's some juicy stuff that we'll be talking about. There'll be a Q&A. But through a lot that unfolds through that film that the directors pushed me to say yes to, it really has caused me to be a full standing man that's proud about who I am and proud about what my journey is about. And also gets to be a testament to other people, because there's a lot of people, whether they're going through HIV or whatever, folks are going through or have gone through or are about to go through something. And I'm really, really grateful that my track, my human life track, has been able to move in a way that is a testimony for people to hold on to and see the possibility of going through the storm and coming out well on the other side. That's where I'm at today.
We're going to take a break. Come right back. 721-1290 is our number. Carlton Wilborn joining us here in studio. Fascinating story. If you have a comment or a question, he's got his headphones on, ready to talk with you. We'll be right back. And we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. All four lines are open. We're visiting with Carlton Wilborn, and we have been learning more about his story. Fascinating story. He's here in Missoula to be part of Vibe Week. But there's a very deep story here that you have been sharing with us. And first of all, thank you for your transparency and being willing to share all that today.
Absolutely.
We really, I'm sure there are people out there going, "What did he say?"
Did I hear that right? As the father of a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, when you said you're having sexual activity at 8, I'm still trying to come to grips with that, frankly.
Yeah.
That just is beyond me as a parent. I can't imagine that.
Well, and I wanted to ask Carlton, we were talking about this off air. I want to go back to that. You're describing 8 years old, 9, 10, sexually active with girls and boys. Mm-hmm. Now, these are not men and women. These are girls and boys. So I asked the question, what's going on in that world? Where are the adults? What is life like that these types of situations and opportunities and encouragement are coming to you? You just wake up one morning and go, look, I'm 8 years old. I'm looking for a partner.
I mean, look, I think the coming from a big city, I think that this kind of happening is not foreign to people that grow up in a big city. The big city lifestyle for parents is very demanding on them in ways that you don't get in smaller towns. So, there are ways that the family is needing to, make ends meet and keep life happening that doesn't afford them to have that micro focus on their children the way that everybody knows that they should. Mm-hmm. So while the parents are out grinding it to keep food on the table and keep the house lights on, the kids got to go to school, and the kids might be walking to school on their own or coming back with a neighbor. And there wasn't so much of like a parent that's working and a parent that's staying home, at least in my community. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad had to both grind. Mm-hmm. So by the time I came home, it was a free-for-all for the kids to figure it out. Yeah, we were told to stay indoors and not go out, but of course, who's going to listen? Most kids don't anyway. So we would go out, and before you know it, we get caught up in some stuff.
Was there encouragement coming from, say, older groups? So you're 8, 10, 12 years old.
No.
Are there older groups, or this is just kind of being figured out on your own? Was it commonplace in the neighborhood?
I think that it was commonplace because I think inside of that high Cosmo lifestyle, the pressure that the parents are feeling, and this is a great conversation to get the parents to take a look at. Right. The pressure that the parents feel ultimately trickles down to the children, which then means the children have all this ramped up energy trying to figure out how to place it by the energy that's happening at home that the parents are not addressing. Right. The pressure, the fighting, the unhappiness, talking about the complications.
The economic insecurity.
All of that.
Yeah.
So then the children's body is just going through sensations and feelings of which they have no outlet for. And sometimes it's, let me touch you and see what this does. Or, oh my God, does your body feel like what I'm feeling like? And you start touching before you know.
So baby, this ain't Mayberry.
No, it's not Mayberry. No. This ain't Mayberry. Yeah. No, it's true.
And Carl, this translates then into the schools also, where you have this lack of supervision, social kind of, community.
Absolutely.
And this just kind of feeds and builds and feeds upon itself.
Yeah, and it's one of the things for myself, because a lot of the work that I also do right now, currently, I've been doing it now for the last 10 years, aside from my creative work, is working as a life coach.
Right.
And I currently have designed the first ever movement-based through dance life coaching program called Dance Formation. And what's nice is I've been able to target it, and I can resculpt the curriculum to fit different markets. And I've really been working to try and get to schools, to the youth, getting them to have a broader perception of what they're internalizing. And if by chance they come up against friction and tension, how they can move past.
It's kind of interesting you bring that up. There's a study going on right now in Missoula, which you don't often, obviously Vibe, it's kind of a dance center in many ways. My wife is an instructor of an exercise routine called ULA, where they dance, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're doing this study right now of people that are struggling with depression or severe setbacks and stress, and going through this, and they're monitoring to see if dance has an effect on their depression and their stress, an effect on relieving that.
Absolutely.
We don't have the end results yet, but the expectation is that it is going to help.
Well, through my research and setting up the program and my curriculum, stats have been proven. There's a gentleman who came out of Albert Einstein's school who has literally proven that dance, more than any other physical activity, heightens the neurons of the brain space more than any other physical form, which makes sense because if you think about it, if you compare it to like yoga or even working out, the body knows how to, or the muscle structure, the DNA, the chemistry, knows that it's going to work it in a very specific certain way, right? So for all of the other complications that the system is going into, it can hide in the body, right? Because it knows if I'm going to hold a pose like this, or I'm going to lift a muscle in this always common way, it can sneak and tuck in to a different part of the muscle structure. The advantage of dance, thwarting all of that, because it has so many different velocities of how it will move the body, the head has to get activated, the toes, the feet, the ankle, the body, the hip. You don't allow any part of your body to go quiet, to allow energies to be dormant, to ultimately later surface and jack up your space.
I'm already feeling kind of moving here.
Wait, hold on. Okay, can we put a camera on this woman right now?
When Albert Einstein first said, "Jack up your space," I mean, it was...
Albert was ahead of his
That's
time.
what he said. Albert said, "Jack up
Jack
your space."
this up, bro.
E equals MC, jack up your space.
DL, jack up your space.
Hit me again.
All right, we're up against another break, and I understand we have another guest coming in here pretty quick, and so, Carl.
Dang, I'm done already?
Yeah. Already done?
We'd love to have you hang around for a while. Seriously.
This is a great conversation.
We can bring everybody in here. What the heck? 721-1290 is our number if you want to give us a call, or be just hanging around dancing at home. That's great. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback, and we are. This is Vibe Day, and the guests are coming in and out. It's kind of like a revolving door. But I want to say thank you to Carl for being with us, also Didi. But joining us right now is Gregor Hatala. He's coming all the way from Vienna. But this is your fourth time in Missoula, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, welcome back.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Now,
Glad to be here.
You just told us a very interesting story. And you wondered if we're on there, is it okay to say that I hunt? Yes, we hunt here.
Well, yeah, it's not very common to be a former dancer and a hunter as well. But I made some nice contacts. First time I was here, I went with Tom Janney. We went fly fishing, and turned out he's a hunter too. And so I was lucky. I drew a big elk combo, and I got a nice mule deer buck near the Missouri breaks. So that was a cool experience.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So you've got
I'm sorry. Hold on, John. Go ahead.
You've had a real taste of Montana life, it sounds like. Just how does it compare to your career in dance? To be honest, growing up here, it seems like such a different world, the world that I'm hearing about from all the dancers. It's nothing that I've experienced, frankly.
Well, the thing is that I really love the outdoors and I love the nature, and I think that's like just the best place to be. And the cool thing was that I met Charlene Campbell-Carey, and we were working together in a competition in Vienna, and it turned out that everybody kind of almost forced me to take over that competition. And Charlene was so nice to say, okay, if you do this, then we'll cooperate. And so she was the first one actually to bring me here, teach in her school, and then we drove around. We went to Glacier National Park and drove around the whole country here.
Oh, cool.
And but for me, it's also exciting because, of course, in Europe, all the dimensions are so much smaller. And here, Montana is 4.5 times the size of Austria, but with 1 million people.
That's why they call it the Big Sky Country.
Exactly. And so I really love it here. And I love the snow and the weather now. That's perfect. I wish I could go with the snowshoes up where some now. But unfortunately, I have to attend a few belly dancers.
Are you a skier? Downhill skier?
Of course.
So, you could get ill and we could head up to the bowl, which you're looking at right there. That's the ski hill right out the window.
Nah, in Austria, first you learn to ski and then you learn to walk. So
right.
I get down safely.
I bet you do quite
Tell you
well.
what, grab those microphones, that headphone right there, and well, let's get Michelle on the line, who's calling from the University of Montana.
Yes, hello,
Michelle Valentine, hi.
Hello, hi, how are you?
What's up?
I don't know if it's the right question to ask in this time of budget cuts, especially in Montana, but this is a question for the group here. How come the state and the city doesn't provide any financial incentives? Since Vibe brings attention, it's good for tourism, people come in, I mean, it's a cultural event which transfers or translates into dollars. So why doesn't the city and the state help financially Vibe? Contrary to Europe, in Europe, such an event would bring state and city finances. Anyway, if you can answer me.
Okay, well, I think Bob has an answer for you. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks,
Michelle, great question. There is, I think, an awakening to understanding the economic impact on a city like Missoula and the state, but it still takes education. We're in a time where money is tight, budgets are tight. You have to show people, you have to demonstrate. I know the city of Missoula, because I've attended meetings, does recognize the impact. But it's always a question of, well, then what can you contribute?
Well, it's like Carlton said, this event, as well as others like the gymnastics event we had last year, it drew hundreds and hundreds of people to Missoula and not visitors, but it didn't receive any. It was promoted by the city, but it wasn't funded, as far as I know.
Right.
So go ahead, Gregor.
Well, there's also one thing I just have to say now, that I have the same Vibe or the Vibe finals in April in Vienna. And we're going now in the second year too, and unfortunately, I get like zero financial support from government or anybody.
Why do you think that's the case, sir?
Well, money is tight. The big companies don't have as much money anymore. There are festivals, and many companies are involved in the arts, and there's just not more money to invest in new things. And now for in Vienna, I even tried to invent a new thing, so I will have handicapped people included. I will have refugees included, because, of course, the refugee issue is a big one right now in Europe. Right. And I said they can, if they have a status of asylum in Austria, they can participate for free. But nevertheless, nobody is willing to give any money. So I think we're just too young, maybe.
I will say for Michelle's, there are processes in Montana. There are state grants. The process to get money from a state or a city is complicated. And, of course, everyone wants free money, right? So to do this, I mean, there are applications you can do. If you're planning on if you're doing a show or an event, for example, the
International Choral Festival,
the Choral Festival, or the movies we show, the nature movies that I forget the name of the
International Wildlife Film Festival.
Thank you very much. These events that we put on here in Missoula that are designed to attract people from outside of Missoula, they do get grant money through these applications, but it is a process. I'm not sure if Vibe did it. I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't.
Let's put it this way: if you really want to help out, if there are talented grant writers out there that are willing to say, hey, this is something that I do, I'll be happy to write a grant for you, because there's all sorts of organizations out there that are willing to send money. You need how to get a hold of them. So
if you're talented in boring legalese, we'll want you.
You have to know how to write grants. That's a great point. There's also an issue of donor fatigue, and you may experience that in Austria. There are only so many people you can keep going back to who are generous supporters that have everybody coming to them. And Missoula, we're the nonprofit center of the world.
Yeah.
Everybody has a good cause, and justifiably so, but there's only so many people that have the resources. 2008, when the market turned down, you could not get support for programs, because as your economy does well, people tend to be more generous.
I want to shift back to dance just a little bit. So you host Vibe in Austria, and you're watching Vibe take place in Missoula. What are some of the differences? I mean, just culturally, the expectations of the public, that sort of stuff.
Well, I think the basic is that we have basically the same rules. Like I wrote the rules, same from Vienna, same for here, and also the prize winners, they can proceed right away to the finals to Vienna. So in this sense, we're the same. But I realized, like from last year, comparing the jury here and the jury in Europe, that they judge a little different. So that's what we experienced when we had the U.S. dancers in Europe.
In what way?
I don't really know, but I think it's a way of the way they dance, the way maybe they are trained. that the jury just reacts and reflects differently on this. So that's one thing that I've thought it was a little different. But in basically for us all the common language is dance. And for me, what's the most exciting thing is just to see all these young artists come here or come to Vienna and get to know each other. They're coming from all around the world. We've had in 2016 in total 500 or more than 500 participants from more than 20 countries. And what's for me is the most important thing is to give these young dancers the possibility to work and to come on stage and show their artistry.
We're going to be right back. 721-1290 is our number. We have all four lines open. If you want to talk with Gregor, he's here to talk with you. And he hunts, so and skis and all that good stuff. So give us a call. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us on Talkback. It's a very special day. It's Vibe Week here in Missoula. And we have a special guest in the studio. Gregor Hatala is from Vienna, Austria, and he is judging here at the Vibe competitions that are going on in Missoula today. But let's get to the telephone right now because we have Dr. Abraham Kim, who's joining us on the telephone this morning, director of the Mansfield Center. Dr. Kim, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, Peter and John?
Excellent.
And Gregor, too.
Hi, good morning.
What's on your mind, sir?
Sure. So I apologize. Should have been at the radio studio this morning to share about our Art of Diplomacy conference that we're doing in partnership with Vibe this week. And just wanted to let your audience know, you had Didi Hoffman earlier today, and her program is actually at, she mentioned 11 o'clock, but it's actually 11:30 at the Master Theater this afternoon. And then tomorrow evening, we have a evening public program starting at 6:15 at the UC Ballroom, our Art of Diplomacy conference, and we'll have people like Carlton there, and they'll be talking about their lives and their stories and how the art has changed society and international relations and build bridges across culture. So I invite all your listeners to attend tomorrow evening, Friday evening, at the UC Ballroom at 6:15.
All right. Thanks so much for calling in, Abraham.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Appreciate it, sir.
I wanted to get back real quick just to chatting a little bit about the judging. So this is something I only pick up when I hear folks like you talk or when I watch the Olympic Games. But there's this, they always talk about the common language of dance or the common language of ice skating or the common language. And yet there's always these debates about what beauty is. Like, what is a beautiful movement? And different cultures interpret that a little bit differently. Like, you hear them talk, oh, that was too sharp. That wasn't graceful enough. That was too powerful, or it wasn't as athletic as it could have been, or it wasn't as graceful as it should have been. and I guess, is that kind of what you're getting at when you talk about the judging between America and Vienna?
Well, you got me there a little bit because it's the common language, but you pointed out all the differences that we have within the language. And of course, there's lots of different likings. So, like, of course, every juror or judge has his preferences. So there is a common language, but of course, it goes then into personal interests. And that's why we have a big variety of jurors in order to get the best support and best coaches also for the participants, because there's also a big part of Vibe are the workshops. So we have the jurors working with the students, because I didn't want them, because I've myself attended as a dancer and also as a juror in many competitions, and I wanted to avoid that the juror sees the dancer for 2 minutes and has to get to know him personally. You don't know if this guy has a bad day or is the bad light or bad floor. So that's why I said, okay, we need them to work with them to get the most profit for their students, so they really get an experience out of it. And they can, it doesn't matter whether you win or not, but for me it's important, the experience. That's why the word is in the name. So I avoided competition or contest or anything, because I wanted to be more as a festival. And that's why we have all the things around happening. And I hope, like also last year, we achieved that many of these participants, they received scholarships. We even have some dancing now in professional companies. And that's what I'm aiming for. To work on the artistry, encourage them to choreograph, to work on their future and on their artistry, just to get and maybe make a living afterwards. And we have, as I said, a few dancers who have contracts now, and that proves for me that we're on the right way.
Do you find any dissimilarities between Austrians and Americans when they come to judging dance? Do they appreciate different things or finer points that the others kind of miss out on or don't appreciate as much? I expect, here's my prejudice, I expect American judges probably want to see something new and different. Maybe they want to see the fundamentals there, make sure that they're there, but they want to see something new and be surprised by it. And perhaps other judges want to see a very, very well honed, the apex of physical achievement, more traditional movement,
or classical. Yeah.
Well, I think I wouldn't cut that down to the country or the origin where the judge comes from, because it's really just the way you were trained and the way where you've worked as a professional dancer and where you got your input, and this is how you develop your preferences. But that's why we try to provide a big amount of jurors. And of course, I also have my own preferences, but still, I have to acknowledge if something is good. Even maybe this dancer is from the looks, not the exact what I preference is my preference. But anyway, we try to get the best for the students.
Question for you: you are built like a linebacker. You look like a football player. Okay, I mean, really.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment.
No, that's definitely a compliment.
From Peter, football associated with you is the highest compliment you can receive.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I wanted to ask you, what kind of training did you have to go through to be able to do what you do? Because I know there are dancers that are slender, there are dancers that are and here's a guy walking in, looks like he'd play for the Grizzlies tomorrow. Well. So tell me about that.
Well, the thing is that my father, he was also a dancer, and he was also very physical and very masculine. So I got this already in my genes, and my mother, she always forbid me. I was never allowed to do any muscle training whatsoever. So I just built it up lifting girls, and
not a bad gig if you can get it.
Well, I know you laugh now because I say girls, but
there's the quote of the day.
Put that on the Facebook.
I lift girls.
Well, but
3
the thing
girls
is,
a day.
If you think they've got 100 pounds, everybody says, "Oh, but that's not heavy," and I say, "Well, lift 100 pounds with one hand over your head and run smiling over stage." Yeah. So, and if you do this several times, you do tend to build up a few muscles.
When I was a boy, I ate 12 dozen eggs.
Very well said.
Absolutely. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but anyway, we're up against our final break. We have a 1-minute timeout, and we'll come back and finish up with Gregor. And this has been a delightful morning. I hope you've had as much fun as we have by listening on the radio. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. And I think we found our personal trainer for the day. Is right here. This is Gregor. So, Bob, you had a question, right?
Kind of really going off of what Peter was saying, tell us about what you have to, or any dancer has to go through to reach a level that you've been able to in terms of the physical demands, nutritional. I don't think people really understand or realize you guys are finely tuned athletes. And there's also a lot of injuries associated with your profession that is out of the public view. So please give us some insight.
Yeah, the problem is that dancing always has to look light and easy, and we're always smiling, and you don't see the sweat and you don't see the work behind. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem that most of the people, they don't think that we start training with the age of 7, 8, or maybe sometimes even earlier. So when I retired at the age of 40, I was 32 years of my life I was dancing and basically doing every day the same exercise.
How old are you?
I'm 42 now, so I retired 2 years ago.
It looks really young, I got to tell you. So
that's the makeup.
Is it the dancing that keeps you looking young?
Well, I think, it takes lots of determination,
right,
and also discipline. So I also try to take care a little bit of my body. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, I let that go a little bit, but that I'm determined to change that again.
So what kind of injuries, as Bob said?
Well, I was honestly lucky that I never had a major injury, but I had so often people come up to me and say, "Oh, and do you have sometimes pain when you're dancing?" And I'm like, ask me when I didn't have pain. Because you always have a problem with your knee, with your back, and it was really a rare occasion that I went on stage and I just didn't have somewhere in my back head, okay, you have to be careful this, because now comes this step, and that's going to be a lot of stress on your muscle, on your bone, on your ligaments. So there is just so much behind, because we just train every day. You work up to 5, 6, 7 hours, depends. If you have shows, you stop a little earlier, but then you have the show in the evening, and you have to go next day. You have to be there in class.
So a question that is somewhat common amongst a lot of professional sports, because of the injuries, people are taking supplements. They're taking drugs. They're taking medications that enable you to go out there and perform. Is that something that exists in a significant way within your profession?
I would say not drugs, but painkillers. Okay. Yeah. That's what you
Those
take.
are drugs.
Oh, okay, this kind of drugs. Okay, good.
And they're addictive drugs, too.
You're not talking about performance, what they call PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs.
Steroids.
No, sorry, that's what I
I'm
referred
talking
to.
about drugs to deal with the pain, to deal with the injuries.
Yes. No, I tried to avoid it as long as I could, because for me, if you have a pain, that's a signal of your body. Once you suppress that signal, you don't know what's happening, and then you just make it worse.
Really
so that's
hurt
why
yourself.
I just tried. If I really had to, and I knew also that's the important thing. You need to know what your body has. What is the mistake, or what is the problem? Because if you just, you feel a pain and you just take medicine, then you will get really seriously injured. And so I have to say I was really lucky. I had my longest injury break was 10 weeks, where I tore some muscles in the calf and I pulled the Achilles. And but fortunately, nothing further major happened. But for example, my best friend, he had to stop dancing with 33, and he got two new hips.
Oh my goodness!
So it's hard. It's a hard work.
I wanted you to get your crystal ball out and just tell me what you think the future of dance will look like. Obviously, with movies, with internet, things like this, in some ways, dance is more approachable. It's easier for people that don't have large incomes to view it. But at the same time, it's not the grand stage with the wealthiest of Europe coming to attend necessarily as it used to be. So where do you kind of feel we're going?
Well, one thing also why I started Vibe was that I was a little unhappy with what's happening in many of the big stages. I have so often that people come to me and say, "Oh, did you see the performance? The dancers were dancing so nice." And I said, "No, they were exercising nicely, but they were not dancing." And so for me, what's missing is the artistry, and that is why I put so much focus on artistry in the pointing and the scoring system during Vibe, because I want to teach the students and the schools and the parents and whoever more to focus that we're artists, we are not gymnasts. And I think then you go on stage, because I think the most boring thing is you watch a performance, and you don't even see where the principals or where the main characters. I want to be captured, that I see somebody enter stage and you see, wow, something's happening there. And then I think it doesn't matter if there's internet, movies, whatever. If you capture the people like this, they will come to the theater.
I'm fascinated by what you said. One of my great best friends is a gymnast and a judge, travels around judging gymnasts. And of course, she's looking for the artistry in gymnastics. Where do you see the difference between what a gymnast does and what a dancer does? They both are claiming to have a point to art here.
Well, I think the thing is that gymnasts, you can score. They have a certain thing. They do more turns or whatever, and then they will get a better point or better position. For us, like dancers on stage, you cannot judge. I will not be the better dancer just because I turn more pirouettes. Or that's also the difficult thing if you're talking to your director, for example, and you have to negotiate for your salaries. There's nothing you can say like, oh, but I did jump a little higher than the other person. So it's all about the personality. And I think we're telling stories. We're telling stories on stage. And that's what fascinates me personally. And this is also how you capture the public. It's not just the technique, what you're doing. And I mean, the gymnasts, they do ballet classes. So I think, for me personally, I think they would just maybe need a little bit more coaching in how to express and like being more of an artist. So cut down a little bit just the exercises and focus a little bit more on the presentation. Also there, of course, we have two different point of views, and the movements for a dancer, the movement of a gymnast doesn't look as aesthetic as a dancer would look like.
And Gregor, I hate to say this, we are completely out of time. I just want to say
I'm
thank
sorry
you.
about that.
No, thank you to you and to everyone from Vibe for being willing to come on the radio. Radio is a difficult medium to express how what you're talking about with dance. But at least we're delivering information for folks, and we can tell them where to go to see you and to see all the folks who will be competing. The competitions will be at the Denison Theater in the University of Montana campus.
Right, it's free to the public.
Right.
And we have our final gala on Saturday in the Wilma Theater. Right. And you will see the creme de la creme of the dancers.
It's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute privilege. That's going to do it. Tomorrow we'll have open phones. And you guys have a great day. Stay warm out there, and we will see you tomorrow.